Welcome back to another episode of the Overnight Success. This is going to be our season finale for, I guess, season two, 2025. As we head into the holidays here, we just realized that there's a lot going on. And so this episode is really going to be kind of a recap over what we have recorded over the last, I think, 8 or 10 episodes. Or no, this will be episode 13 or 14. Yeah, it's crazy how much time flies. But Christy, I know you've done a lot of interviews this past season. I kind of kicked off our interviews at the beginning, but we've learned a lot. We have a lot of guests on this time compared to the last season, a lot of themes there, which we'll get into here soon. But curious how you're feeling as we're now recording season two, season finale.
Yeah, Jon, it's been so fun. Full transparency, I was hesitant to start the podcast at the beginning of January of 25, and it's one of the more fun things that we do now. I love what we do in terms of our work, but listening to these entrepreneurs' stories and really with that theme of couch to success, that overnight success, quote unquote. And so hearing their stories and how they've had the passion and the grit, and like you said, we'll get into the themes, but it's been so fun. And it's also been fun just getting on people's calendar to get the coffee chat, to talk like, hey, I want to invite you into this podcast. So it's pushed me in my comfort zone as well. So I think the podcast has been such a growth opportunity, and even looping in our word for the year, visibility. And so the podcast has allowed us to show up online in a way that we were struggling at the beginning of the year. And as we continue to enhance our company and our systems, I think the podcast has absolutely been a instrumental piece to our growth in more ways than one. And a big way, I'll be honest, is probably personally. And I think that's what I heard in a lot of the stories that we talk to people too, is just pushing through that glass ceiling and really understanding that anything is possible if you have the determination and the grit to push forward. And so, yeah, I think it's been really fun and excited to do the recap today.
Yeah, and I think too, this season has been interesting, especially as we've leaned on other founders, because yes, this is kind of a business podcast, but as much as we talk about systems and maybe on our Tech Tuesdays or different content, this we're very much kind of sitting back and listening more to the people side of things. So not that I don't know if they have a category for people podcasts or anything like that, but I definitely think this is more of the personal side of business, which has been great. And there's a lot of overlapping themes there, but each person definitely has an amazing backstory that has come out. And there's I've seen the lines, right? It's not a linear line from beginning to success. It's kind of all over the place and looks like a mess, and it's still continuing to grow, and we still have messy days.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of looks at how we've transformed this year too, and doing season one versus season two. Season one was a lot of us trying to figure it out, right? We're figuring out the technology. We're figuring out, how do we speak on camera? How do we speak solo? How do we have those co-founder conversations? I don't think we even had a co-founder conversation this season. Like, we just had so many guests, which was really cool. And I think that that's what the audience has really enjoyed. And so, not to skip all the way to the end of this, but stay tuned because that's what's coming next year. But with that being said, I think we've learned so much in terms of the back end, but also the front end. And it's been really fun too, putting on that kind of like interviewer podcaster hat, right? And having the opportunity to go into some of these founders' stories. And what's cool is the audience has been able to learn new things too, because these founders are sharing not only real life experiences, but tactical things that have gotten them from A to Z, maybe not Z, but further in the alphabet. And so it's like, we've talked about sales, we've talked about marketing, we've talked about SaaS, we've talked about mindset, we've talked about pushing through the obstacles and umpteen other things, right? And so, yes, as the optimization specialist, we talk a lot about systems and processes and technology, but her network is so full of people in different niches and industries that it's been so fun to kind of like, I know we're always using car analogies, so to like peek under the hood, right?
Yeah, we're me probably more than you, but very famous for car analogies. I'm not even a car person, but I think cars definitely make great analogies. So let's kind of jump in here as we're looking back. Favorite moments or themes from this last season? Like any particular guest? Not that one is greater than the other, but kind of lessons learned from a particular guest. Anything that resonates with you?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it high level because I loved all the guests that we had this season, but it's really, I think, been sprinkled in with what I've already shared, but really having the vision, the why, and understanding that like it's figure outable, right? And so hearing those stories and then really listening in and hearing them talk about how like it's hard. It's really challenging to build these businesses, but they've gotten through it. And it's hard until it's not hard anymore. And if that doesn't make sense, what I mean by that is like people are showing up, they think it's going to take less time, they think it's going to be easy. But then they realize when they're boots on the ground, so to speak, that there's actually so many more steps that go into these things. And every single episode, there was a story about that. And then the other thing I would highlight is one of our favorite questions to ask on the podcast is, well, what is success to you? And not one of them mentioned money. They've all mentioned having lifestyle. They've all mentioned having family time, community. Like there's these underlying tones of I'm in this business because I'm passionate about it, not because I'm trying to seek more money, but I'm trying to help people. And in the process, I'm gaining a network of people and a tribe that are wanting to walk alongside because they're providing such exceptional service, which is what kind of guests we want on this podcast, right? We want to hear those stories. And so, yeah, those are kind of the two themes that came through for me that just really resonated in a way that I'm not a money hungry driven person, but I will say, it's nice to hear that not everybody in business is. And I think entrepreneurs sometimes get a bad rap for that. And I will highlight that every single one of them was not in it for the money. They were in it for truly helping and being better for their clients.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them, to your point, turned passion and projects maybe into those businesses. There's definitely, and I'm not like looking down on the people that chased like, oh, here's a quick way to make money or whatever. But typically when you start that way, there are successful businesses out there that was just chasing the money, right? In the world of AI, many people are creating very quick AI apps or AI wrappers and like they're making money. But you and I have talked that we definitely could have pivoted this business to basically just like chase the money. And as there's times where I wish that maybe our revenue was higher at times, like that's not the way that I want to do it. I want to do it more of, hey, we just have more customers that have found us and I want to keep doing what we're doing. And to your point, the guests that we had on here, it's probably because of the network that we have, but they've built those businesses from that passion and they're happy with it. And to your point, those answers also had nothing to do with money. It's more of that lifestyle phase. And so I think for me, in line with that, when speaking with Ben Wilson, which was, I think, our first guest of this season, as much as I'm great friends with my other friend, Ben Toy, Ben Wilson was great because he was the hot dog guy, the concession guy. And it's one of those things that you kind of mix into the world of like carnivals or just like, what type of lifestyle or what type of business could you have just selling food on the side of the road or at an event. But he was talking about how it was his lifestyle that he can decide when to work or when not to work. And so if he wants to go make extra money, he'll go and put in some extra hours, or if not, then he doesn't have to. And that was really what opened my eyes more to like the lifestyle side of things. Like I enjoy what we do, but sometimes you start to wonder like, what is the end result that you're looking for? And so back to the point of it's not a dollar figure, it's more or less like that lifestyle. And so him talking about the different people that he's worked with in the same field that might only work 8 months out of the year, but we'll bring a money figure into like a 6-figure salary a year. And so they found something that was actually kind of simple to do, but there's a passion behind it. And they kind of did that lifestyle first attitude when they decided like, how do I want to make my money for, I don't know about the rest of my life, but definitely for this current season of life or the foreseeable future. And so he was a great person to talk to because it's in an industry that people don't always look at the same way, but it really, he's really built an amazing lifestyle from it.
Yeah, I would add on that too. Another kind of theme that I heard is, the path is not linear. And, Ben probably didn't think he was going to be doing a hot dog cart, right? Like, that wasn't his dream as a child. But, the
Well,
cool.
he talked about being rich and like, cause he had like 3 furniture stores and all this and everything like failed overnight. So he stumbled into this cause he was too, what did he say? I was too rich for food stamps but couldn't afford food or something along those lines. And yeah, to your point, he had a lot of like if you looked at net worth or income, he had the numbers. He had a private jet at one point. He was flying like he had the numbers that everybody dreamt of. Went away very quickly and he shifted to this and he is way happier than what he ever was. So yeah, to your point, he stumbled into it, but he's very happy with where he is now.
Yeah. And that to me opens up two things that I kind of saw in the all of the episodes too, is that be open to change and opportunity, and then also be willing to pivot and being able to recognize we all have blind spots, but we're showing up and we're trying to figure out what's the next thing. And there's a good book, and I won't call it out because I can't remember the name, but it's like, how do you sell the most hot dogs? It's not by having the best product. It's not by having the best price. It's going to a hungry crowd. Go where the people are hungry, right? And
Yeah.
so with the hot dog stand, Ben is doing that with our clients who are in different industries selling prints and marketing and technologies. They're nonprofit technologies, right? Like there's so many different services out there, and they're there because they listen to their audience, their clients, and then they went where they're hungry. They fished where the fish were. And that's been a really cool thing to hear through the different stories that have come up is, don't be so bullheaded that you're like, I made the best thing since sliced bread, but in reality, sliced bread failed the first time. I don't know if people really know that, but before the Industrial Revolution, right? Like there was no toasters and the housewives wanted to make the bread. Well, fast forward, now that's pretty much all that people purchase. So anyway, that's not in our podcast, but that's a real thing. And so with that, the themes are like, be open to change, pivot, and look for those opportunities is some of the big things that I saw this season.
Yeah. The other thing that I saw is kind of stuff that we all deal with, and I think it's always it's motivating, or it's great to know that other people are dealing with the same thing you are, is like the mental health journey, or essentially like the imposter syndrome, or people second guessing them, right? I can't remember who it was, but as I'm making clips for the episodes, I remember some of them saying that like people question what I did, but I pushed forward and anyway said, watch me do this. And so I love the guess. Again, I forget exactly who it was, but essentially they were challenged and they took that as a challenge and they pushed back, right? But I know there are people out there, unfortunately, when they get that little bit of friction or whatever, they sometimes shut down. But many of the to get to that overnight success, you do have to push through that, whether it's your own self doubts where you're the one talking yourself down, or it's your close group of friends. I know I've run through this before where people that are not quite as familiar with entrepreneurship, right? Like they have the corporate job, which is perfectly fine, but they're so used to like the structure and like the safety net of that. And like, why would you want to go out and do this with these high risks, or like you're putting in all of this extra time? But, like, at the end of the day, when you have that passion and, like, it's just in your DNA to go, constantly solve problems, constantly kind of experiment and figure that out. When you push through all of that, that's where we get the guests that we do on the podcast. And so they went through a lot of those different challenges, but they ended up on the right side of it here. And there's probably more struggles in the future. And so if I could fast forward 5 years and we had all these guests back on, I'm sure that they would have brand new stories to tell us and how they pushed through.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like I heard that theme through many of the podcast episodes. And, that was the cool thing is hearing them when they were struggling and then getting them to the point where they are today and they're no longer struggling and not even struggling we're not talking financials, right? We're talking mentally, we're talking emotionally, we're talking relationally, we're talking some financials, right? You want to be in business and make money, but the biggest thing here is really keep pushing forward and don't allow that self-talk to stop you from doing the things, because I know I talk about Hermosi a lot, but he says if it's hard for you, it's hard for everybody. So just keep pushing forward because that's where the breakthroughs are going to happen, right? And so I think that when we start looking at like some of those common themes, like we've really touched on them, and I think that there's exciting things to continue to learn from these people that we're going to bring in next season, because everybody's story is different, and that's where the power of like staying in your lane but understanding what you're good at and then bringing the right people around you. And that's the other thing I saw is like these people aren't doing it alone. They've got people in their corner helping them get to that next level. Also, I'm sorry, now I'm just riffing because I remember hearing these too. It's like the themes that are coming back is like they weren't afraid to ask for help. And I think
Mhm.
mentorship in business is really powerful and really understanding like success leaves clues. And so lean in and don't be afraid to ask for help because you'd be surprised at how many times people are like, hey, yeah, I'll give you 15 minutes. And there's so much breakthrough that can happen if you show up intentionally. And so I think a lot of these founders also have leaned in and asked for help when needed because as a human, you just can't know everything, right? And so we're learning as we go. And I don't know if I got any more themes, but all of it's coming back.
Well, and I think that leads to entrepreneurship can also be lonely, right? Because back to the point of like, if your main friend group aren't entrepreneurs or business owners, like they don't understand. Christy, you're sending me emails at midnight on sometimes on some of these things, right? Like it just you put that energy in. Like when you're fully focused, it looks crazy from the outside looking in, but when you're in it, like it's normal, so to speak. So I think a lot of them have pushed through that, but it can be lonely. So reaching out and joining different groups, networking groups, some of them talked to your point, talked about their community. And so maybe you have your friends that you've known forever and like you have that friend group for like social, but then you want to make sure in the entrepreneurial side of things that you have that type of community, whether it's a local chamber, local networking group, whatever that is. For me, it's front row dads. It's like that group of people. It's like we all understand each other. We know what keeps us awake at night, like how we can't shut our brain off. The same similar shower thoughts and stuff in the morning. I think all of our guests have had that in one way or another. And in the beginning, they may or may not have had that, but definitely where they are now, like that they lean heavily on that community.
Yeah, super powerful. Yeah, I would say on the community thing, it's really powerful to have the right people around you. And, being an entrepreneur for many years now, it's been interesting because at the beginning I was seeking that validation. And I think this is another theme that not only I felt from the founders that we talked to this season, but that I've seen with other founders is that if somebody hasn't done it before you, maybe their advice isn't the right thing. We should be leaning into the people such as your networking groups that are in the same industry or such your entrepreneur friends, right? And so keeping the right tribe around you is really important. And so yeah, I mean, highly recommend go listen to all the episodes because these people are powerful people. It's exciting that they've all been on the journey and they started from zero. And I think that's a big thing is like we often compare ourselves to the people who are hundreds of steps ahead of us and we want to make sure that we're focused in on like step 1, step 2, step 3, right? And so they highlight those stories in the episodes and would give a shout out to every single one of them for that. So thank you for being on the episodes.
Yeah, yeah. One other thing that I don't know if I learned it through the podcast recordings, but it definitely has come in through the last few months, kind of back in the mental health of like there's the loneliness of entrepreneurship, but there's that mental, for me personally, it was always like fear of failure. And being in my front row dads group, some of them have kind of called me out, like, what are you afraid of failing on? And the main takeaway here is you might be afraid that like if you say I'm going to scale this to whatever, or I'm building this thing and then it flops, that the whole world is going to be sitting there pointing at you like, what an idiot Jon is. But the punchline is nobody cares. Nobody really cares about you. And I'm waiting for a book, right? That comes out probably with that title. So like nobody really cares about you at all. It sounds bad, but I've always got my head to your point, like the validation side or just like the fear of failure is like, so you put this post out that you're going to go do something and then it's kind of crickets. Nobody was sitting there with a reminder on their calendars like, I'm going to confirm that Jon did what he said he was going to. Right. And in entrepreneurship, if you have no failures, then you're not really pushing yourself hard enough. And that has always been a hard thing for me because I felt like the whole world is watching. I don't know why, right? Like I'm not that special. I'm not this big celebrity where the whole world is watching me. I feel for them. I could understand the fear of failure from that side of things, but kind of getting out of your own way, right? We've talked about building systems, not bottlenecks, right? If we go back to the workshop we gave back in October, you can definitely be your own bottleneck, and you need to get out of your own way. And that's why I've loved our relationship because there's plenty of times where you've called me out, or like and then I'll call you out on different things, and it's not in a hurtful way. It's just like, Cristy, you're right about there. Like what's holding you back? Or for me, I go so deep down in the weeds. Like Jon, like just back up a second. Like you're right there. So it's great to have somebody that where we're just, especially when we both have the same North Star, and we own this business and we're trying to grow it to different levels, like it's very easy to get lost in things, get lost in your own head. We're different people, different things bother us different ways, but we're there to support each other and kind of pull each other out of a hole.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about the theme of like the surrounding yourself with people. I'm trying to remember. I think most of our guests this season were solo founders, which is interesting because I feel that there's a lot of power. And even if you go into like VC firms, like they look for co-founding teams. And the reason is because a person can't know all of the things, and having somebody like you're mentioning on our side of things is having somebody to bounce things off of and really, hey, did you see this, or does this make sense? Like it's really helpful. And so yeah, just surrounding yourself with the right people. I'm going to make like kind of a hard shift here because I think with the world of technology today, people are leaning into AI, and a lot of our clients are now trying to dabble in that, and the guests that we had on the episode, and even us, right? Like we're in this new era of AI, but AI is not replacing people, and we need to leverage AI. And I know that we will continue to leverage it. I mean, we do, right? Even with our podcast, we snip it down. It's not us, but years ago, it was like you have to go in there and you have to have somebody clip down the videos and listen for the right spots. Now it's just like 3 minutes later, you've got the clips, and it's incredible. And then you download it and you upload it, you do the thing, right? And I think that when we look at maybe you brought up systems, not bottlenecks, is like, what are those next steps? And we do that at the optimization specialist. We don't really talk about it too much in the overnight success, but I think next season, as we sprinkle in new guests, we can bring those co-founder conversations into the season if that's what the audience wants. Is how are we leveraging that technology? How are we seeing the shifts in the marketplace? How are we really understanding what is and not working when you're looking to hire, or versus when you're looking to leverage your technologies, right? And so, yeah, that's just kind of what came to mind after we are talking about all these people, because people are so important. But I think the world is thinking, yeah, but what about technology?
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, I think it's good to leverage it, but I think it was Jen who said that she hired an a expensive, I'll just say the word, an expensive coach, right? A business coach or life coach, and it changed her whole business. So yes, I think that you can kind of get by a little bit, and I know I definitely lean on it. But sometimes having somebody there like in your face, kind of calling you out and saying, like, John, what are you doing? ChatGPT is not going to do that for you. And so like it's great for some of that idea generation, but yeah, leaning in on those, finding a mentor, hiring a coach. I think that that was very common through their, back to your point of community and just not doing it solo. Even though they are solo founders, they definitely didn't build the entire thing by themselves. There was other people out there that helped along the way, whether it was just education or support or a team.
Yeah. So I would say, to kind of summarize everything that we just said, is there's really no overnight success. Like it
Right. Oh yeah.
takes time. It takes so much energy. It takes so much determination, right? One of my favorite phrases is focused, determined action. Like get clear on that North Star, accelerate your journey with the right systems to support the mindset, understand that you can break through those literally glass ceilings. Like there's no reason that the reason I cannot be Elon Musk is because I don't want to have 4 companies and sleep under my desk. And, but like, there's no reason if I didn't have that desire and that passion that I couldn't be the person to get us to Mars, right? Like, I'm being a little facetious, but you know what I mean? Because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And I think it's important that we leverage the networks, the communities, the technologies, the people, everything around us, and just continue to pursue, solve a problem for someone and find your pathway, and just be very clear on what that vision is. And that's what's been really aligned for us, I think, this whole time that we've worked together, is really having a North Star. Where are we going? How are we helping our customers? Can we speak that same language? Yeah, we get told no. All of the people, another theme is they were told no at one point or another, right? Like it's okay. So yeah, I think for me, it's just continue to show up 1% better every single day. Take a moment to slow down every once in a while, because that's super important. Not to say it again, but like leverage people in a healthy way, obviously, but like be mindful of your systems. And it's been really fun to do interviews. And I guess for me, I would also say is like to the audience, if you're interested in hearing specific topics or things like that, like please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Do you have a person that you think would be a great person on this episode, on this podcast, or a theme that you'd like to see? Because next season we're already stacking up the lineup and we're excited for it. But I just wanted to call that out too.
Yeah, and I think as we go into season 3, I do wanna pull that out a little bit more from the interviews, right? Like, we got a lot of great information and a lot of great insights from the interviews that we had this season, but I'm realizing that there's a lot of really good nuggets in there, and so, like, as we set up some of our interview questions, I think it'll be good to kinda pull that out a little bit more. Yes, it has been great to understand what people think about overnight success. Again, we realized that most of them or all of them was never related to money, but I kind of want to learn more of like what their life lessons are, right? Because and the funny thing is when you talk to business owners, sometimes they're like, who am I to give life lessons? But when we look back at that 8, 10, 15, 20-year journey to now be living this overnight success, there's a lot of life lessons in there. And so pulling those out and kind of highlighting those would be really powerful. I was thinking when you were talking about the overnight success, like that was the whole reason we kind of came up with that title, right? We knew that even though it looks like it from the outside looking in, it took many years, whether it was just knowledge, right? Where some started in corporate and learned a lot of skills and then turned that into a business, or just a bunch of back to back failures until they finally learned, what the final right thing to do was to start going in the right direction.
Yeah. I can't remember the quote, but it's something along the lines of just because I make it look easy doesn't mean it's easy. It means I've done a lot of work behind the scenes to make it look easy.
Yeah, yeah, and those are the stories I enjoyed, like, learning this season, but I would love to, like, as we, start interviews for next season, we dig into that. But it'll be interesting, right? Flip of a new year, I think it'll be fun too because business owners seem to always be a little bit more hungry at the beginning of the year, right? Because we all typically set like the New Year resolutions or like the New Year goals. We do the annual review. So I'm excited to start catching those conversations now and kind of learn where have they come from, but most likely there's also changes in the future for them. So kind of understand where they're going and maybe why they're making those decisions and just kind of follow them throughout next year as we start leaning into 2026.
Yeah, completely agree. I think we had a very successful season and excited for the next season. Audience, if you're listening, like don't forget to like and share this podcast with people because it really does help us build the numbers and we want to be helpful. We want to hear and share those stories. And so, Jon, do you have anything else you want to add today for the viewers?
No, I'm excited for 2026. We have some things that we're working on as we continue to evolve in our business. Excited to hear again from all these different business owners next season. But good luck to everybody as we wrap up. Happy holidays as we wrap up the year. Really looking forward to hearing from our audience as they start to evolve themselves. And to your point, if they can comment if on the YouTube side of things, like anything that they've learned this year, I think it's great to collaborate with other people and almost wish we had like a dictionary or some type of reference material for all the lessons learned throughout the year.
Hey, well, maybe we'll make that happen in season 3.
Yeah, that
Stay
sounds good.
tuned.
Take an idea and make it happen, right? Take action.
I love it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.